Target Adani. Streaming now.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Game On. I'm Neha Bhardwaj Alter. India dominated day one of the first test in Dominica, and how? It was brilliant performance by the Indian team on day one. After the hosts won the toss and chose to bat first, Indian bowlers were exceptional, especially Ravichandran Ashwin. That's right. It was a day where once again Ravichandran Ashwin made one realize his importance in the team in away tests too. It's the best way to tell the team management and how wrong they were in keeping him out of the World Test Championship final. Yes, the conditions were different than at the Oval. Yes, he wasn't bowling to the likes of Steve Smith and Travis Head, but he still showed how big a difference he can make when he is in the team playing. He was the best bowler on day one at Vincent Park, getting his 33rd 5-wicket haul to underline his importance in the side. He was ably supported by Ravindra Jadeja, but I've got to ask you this. How disappointed were you by the West Indies? I mean, you expected a bit more application from their batters. You don't expect someone like a Craig Brathwaite to get out to a shot like that. It was an absolutely terrible performance by the West Indian batters. Joining me now is Jamie Alter, who before the series began had predicted a 1-all result. That prediction looks very unlikely in how they've gone about it, Jamie.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor. Absolutely. Not the kind of batting display that's going to win you any test matches. We spoke about, and I highlighted the fact that if this West Indies team is not able to bat twice, very well twice in one test match, then it's definitely India's advantage, despite having a rather weak pace attack. But look, I mean, you win the toss, good conditions to bat, but 150. I think the fact that not even, none of the main batsmen, by main batsmen, I mean the ones who played Test cricket, were able to face 50 balls. Only the debutant, Athanaze, and then Holder got 60 plus. And I mean, Craig Brathwaite, I mean, I've been highlighting his name as someone who's one of the, maybe now with Chiteshwar Pujara not actively playing Test cricket, the last sort of dour old school Test batsman or Test opener is Craig Brathwaite. And it was just last year that he was sending this England team, the pre-baseball England team, into fits and rapture because he just would not get out. And the shot that he played yesterday is shocking. Hey, look at the amount of wickets that fell, caught in the circle. Just appalling batting from West Indies.
All out, Jamie. If you remove Athanase's innings, it would have been even worse. And we were expecting them to be better because overall, you look at their effort, and yes, Indian bowling was very good. Conditions helped the Indian bowlers, but some of them got out to really terrible shots. There was no application from the West Indian batters, and it also shows you the gulf between these two teams.
Absolutely. Again, I hold the captain Craig Brathwaite because he's played so much Test cricket and he's blunted almost every single bowling attack that he's come up against. Where was that batting? Where was that old school technique? Where was the application when you needed it? I mean, Ashwin got the ball. I think the 9th over, if I'm not mistaken, and in his 3rd over, he bowled the off spinner's dream ball to Tejnarayan Chanderpaul. Okay, great ball, can get the best of players. After that, I mean, Raymond Reefer, I was seeing some comments, 95 first-class matches, just 100. How the West Indies selectors have picked talent like him is probably beyond a lot of people outside the Caribbean. When those 2 wickets fell, Craig Brathwaite had to bat deep and try and take the match into the second day. What kind of shot did he play? How many people were swinging across the line, backing away? India, yes, Ashwin and Jadeja on such tracks, they're going to be more than a handful, Meha. But India's pace bowling was far from threatening. Mohammad Siraj bowled decently well. I thought he fielded better than he bowled. Shardul Thakur, gentle medium pace. Jaidev Unatkar, gentle medium pace. There was nothing threatening in the wicket. There was nothing threatening from India's bowlers. And yet you watch the wickets that fell, barring 2 of them. Just harakiri, as the old cliche goes. If they bat like this, West Indies can forget winning even a session, forget a test match.
Yeah. The other thing being, you talked about Mohammad Siraj. I mean, he started well, and I thought that there were a couple of, edges that flew off the batters' bat, with West Indian batters. But having said that, I felt that Jaydev Unadkat was far more disciplined in the way that he was bowling. It's a different thing that both of them did not get wickets, but you'd say that they began well. Jaydev Unadkat slightly more better than Mohammad Siraj.
Absolutely, and that's probably why Jaydev Unadkat was picked. We've spoken on previous shows about his lack of pace, but the left arm angle clearly valued by this Indian team, given the amount of right-handers in the West Indies lineup. But also there's the experience factor, right? He's played so many first-class matches, not a couple, but many good successful Ranji Trophy seasons for Saurashtra, including two when they won it. So you do want that experience. Yes, he was very accurate, but I just think, I don't want to sound harsh here, but you swap the name Jaydev Unadkat and you pick up anybody else who's played 50, 60 first-class matches. On that track, against that hapless batting, probably most bowlers could have landed the ball in that area, Am I surprised that Jaydev Unadkat did not get wickets? No, because clearly the West Indies batsman just sort of wanted to play him out. But, Shardul Thakur comes on and boom, he gets a wicket, and then 8 wickets to the spinners, fantastic performance once again from Ashwin, Jadeja. Like I said earlier, on these tracks where the ball is doing a bit, you expect spin to come into play very early. And Ashwin did come on very early. But just, a little bit of application. I go back to what I was saying before the ball was bowled. This West Indies team held off England last year to win a series,
Yeah.
Where was that application? Yes, there are some new names, but Jermaine Blackwood, what was he doing? Joshua De Silva, okay, you can argue he perhaps was hurried into his shot, but a lot of the senior players in this team really let down their team and whatever West Indian fans came to watch day one yesterday.
From being ignored for both test matches on India's previous tour to the West Indies in 2019 to sitting out 6 consecutive tests in England across 2021, 2022 and 2023. India's seam bowling titan Ravichandran Ashwin had plenty to feel chuffed about after taking 5 wickets on day one to help limit West Indies to just 150. Ashwin set the home team's spiral in motion with the wicket of Tej Narayan Chandrapal in his 3rd over of the match. And when he claimed the wicket of Jomel Warrican to close the innings, it gave Ashwin his 33rd 5-wicket haul in Test cricket. The number 1 ranked bowler in the format said after the day's play that without the lows, there are no highs. And listening to him speak, you have to question the thinking behind India leaving out Ashwin for so many overseas Test matches. During the course of his 5-wicket haul, Ashwin made the became the third Indian bowler to take 700 wickets in international cricket after fellow spinners Anil Kumble and Harbhajan Singh, but with a far lower average and a strike rate than his 2 seniors. The question then should be asked, is Ashwin India's greatest spinner? And I'm going to put that question to Jamie as well. I was looking at numbers, Jamie, and it's really disappointing. It's sad. It's disheartening. I understand why Ashwin feels so bitter about the fact that despite giving results overseas, he's ignored every time India has gone to England. Even in the West Indies, you and I were discussing this, that he was the highest wicket taker on that tour to West Indies in 2016. He scored 2 centuries, and yet when India went to the West Indies in 2019, he was ignored yet again. Ravindra Jadeja played those 2 test matches and Ashwin sat out. And there are many such instances. And so, yeah, I understand why he feels, bitter about it.
Absolutely. Only he knows what it actually feels. We on the outside can just surmise what it is. But when Ashwin speaks, you're drawn to hear him because he's been such an astute reader of the game and very honest in his analysis. And I'm going back to when I first heard him, when he made his debut against the West Indies back in 2011. But then you hear him. Now he's obviously far more mature, experienced. To be able to keep that kind of disappointment and to hide the bitterness. Clearly, there will be bitterness because you rightly referenced two test matches in the West Indies where the conditions once again are tailor-made for him, and then six consecutive test matches in England not being picked. Surely he has a lot of things to say, but he's just keeping it inside. He's letting the ball do the talking. And 5 wickets, from the time he came on, ninth over, I believe it was, West Indies batsman had a massive challenge in front of him. And good to see, Meha, that Ashwin didn't really try anything. We've seen oftentimes, albeit years ago when he was younger and still sort of working his way through 3 or 4 months, he would try things because probably he was confident or he was trying to outfox batsmen. Not all of his experiments worked. This was just classical Ashwin in conditions favored for his kind of bowling, just tossing it up. And to start off your spell and get the wicket of Tejara and Chanderpaul with that kind of wicket in your third over, you just knew watching him this was going to be Ashwin's day. Kind of surprised that he didn't get more than 5 wickets. But when you have Jaddu at the other end, also in these conditions, 8 wickets between the spinners, not at all surprised.
Yeah, okay, let's also, you were talking about how good he is with words. And it's always nice as journalists to get Ravichandran Ashwin in press conferences because of how eloquent he is. So there are a couple of quotes and I want to take some of them because of how well he has spoken, and he's told you what he's felt, after being left out in that World Test Championship final. And that quote's going to come up on your screens. And I want you, Jamie, to react to this. He says, I've spoken about it. It's very tough as a cricketer when you have a WTC final and you end up sitting out. All that is fine. But what is different between me and another person is that if I also end up sulking in the room, then there is no difference. He was mentally prepared to play. He says, the scroll's going too fast, but I'm sure you can read it. He was mentally prepared. He was physically prepared. He'd done the homework. And Jamie, we know then that Ravichandran Ashwin is meticulous with his planning. He would have seen videos of every Australian batter. In another interview, he had spoken about how he'd seen what Steve Smith does against off spinners and, made a plan around it. So, yes, it mustn't have been easy, but the best way to feel vindicated is by showing what you can do on the field, which is exactly what he did yesterday.
100%. Very, very well spoken, very honest, very forthright from Ashwin. Of course, these comments get a bit of polish on them after you've taken 5 wickets to utterly smash the opposition and set your team on the way what should be maybe a 3.5 day victory. So very understandable that Ashwin found it in him to perhaps add a few layers into his post-match comment, and that comes naturally when you've done very, very well. But you just hear what he's saying. I mean, even when at my level, when you're playing utterly inconsequential club cricket and the kind of emotions and egos and bitterness that creeps in there, we're talking about a man who's got 480 odd test wickets, India's second highest wicket taker. So for him to still keep it together, to leave aside the bitterness cannot be easy. And I just think now, like we were discussing yesterday on the show as well, Ashwin, I hope from now, whatever the two plus years he probably has left in him as a test cricketer, I hope irrespective of the conditions that his name is the first on the sheet after the captain, whoever that captain may be for the next 2 odd years.
All right, Chetan Narula also joins us on the show. Chetan, we're just discussing the genius of Ravichandran Ashwin and also the question around whether he is the greatest when it comes to red ball cricket in India. Now, why I'm putting this question straight away, because yes, Anil Kumble has many more wickets than he does, but he has a better average, better strike rate. And I also feel, had he been given those opportunities in away tests, maybe, that wickets column would have had more wickets, because I was looking at his numbers and there's this narrative around Ravichandran Ashwin that he's not as effective in Sena countries. And I was just looking at his record since 2018 in Sena countries for all the bowlers who played more than 10 innings, right? He's right there at the top. He has taken 46 wickets in 15 tests at an average. He's got the best average of 30.34. Best in the world in that period for all the spinners. So somewhere I feel like there is this thought, but there is no validity to that thought if you look at numbers.
Well, thanks for having me Meena, again. Look, I don't believe in comparing eras, comparing what Anil Kumble did, or in fact, if we go even further back, somebody like a Bishan Bedi or a Bhagwat Chandrasekhar, I mean, it's very different kind of conditions, very different kind of opposition batsmen that Kumble bowled to, or even the spin quartet bowled to, or the kind of conditions and opposition that Ashwin is bowling to. Of course, the one thing that I would like to say here definitely is that he doesn't get enough credit for the kind of bowling he's done, for the amount of wickets that he's picked. As you rightly pointed out, since 2018, he's been the most effective spinner in Sena countries. However, it's just a period of time where India is also blessed with a left-arm spinner who is an all-rounder. Like I said yesterday on the show, Indian cricket doesn't understand how to use Jadeja, doesn't understand, especially in overseas conditions, and as a consequence, doesn't understand how to use Ashwin as the standoff spinner in overseas conditions. So because of that, we'll always lament the opportunities that he hasn't gotten. And like he said yesterday, he was mentally prepared to play the WTC final, then he was also mentally prepared to sit out. I think that second line is very, very important because, it's somebody who's taken so many test wickets, he was actually mentally prepared to not play the WTC final. That just shows the way the team management has thought in England, in overseas test cricket, when it comes to Ashwin. So there is no doubt in my mind that he is the most impactful bowler, test bowler for India in this current era. Like I said yesterday, he should be the second name on the test playing 11 after Virat Kohli. Every test, irrespective of conditions, irrespective of opposition. But, like you said, we can't really say if he's the best test bowler, but definitely he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves.
Now, this is what he had to say about the performance yesterday. He says it was a pretty good performance. There was moisture in the pitch in the first session. It got slow and started to spin a bit more. Let's put that quote up. Ashwin upbeat about his good performance. It got a lot more slower. So he said, I had to adapt early. Not surprised with the pitch. I expected it to be a bit dry. I had to get pace right to trouble the batters. International cricket is all about adapting to different conditions, and if there's one bowler who's done that, Jamie, consistently, it is Ravichandran Ashwin. Before every series, there is a lot of thinking that's involved. There is innovation. Like I said, there's a lot of planning, and you see that. You see what he keeps doing, how he keeps adding to his armory. Because I think that Tej Narayan Chandrapal's wicket was a perfect example of that, where he was, how wide he got off the crease. Did you saw that? You and I were watching it, and how he landed the ball in the middle, just at the middle stump, slight turn, and took off the off stump. It was beautiful to watch, and this is the kind of bowling that we've seen from him in away matches as well.
Away, home, wherever it is, like Chetan was just saying, forget the conditions. If you can do that, right, you are bordering on greatness. I perhaps won't use that term yet, but again, Ashwin, it's just muscle memory, right? And you just imagine like six consecutive tests in England not picked, left out for both the test matches in the same rather favorable conditions in the 2019 tour of the West Indies. And still he's able to just come back and say, you know what, I know where to bowl, I know what to do. Almost had a wicket first ball, the inside edge, narrowly missed the stumps. So when you're doing that, it's testament to what you've learned, what you've worked on. I also referenced the innovation aspect of Ashwin. More so in white ball, he tried certain things and it didn't come off. But then to have that acceptance, the awareness that, you know what, maybe I'm trying too hard, and to come back and just to find the motivation, just going back to the quotes which you had up on the screen, and they're back again. To say things like that, to keep that bitterness, to keep the ego, all that very firmly behind you, and to come back and do it again, it just shows, what a genius this man is. And whatever, I'll say it again, whatever time is left, 2, maybe 3 years, if his body wills him, left of Ashwin as a test cricketer, let's just hope that he gets every single opportunity. Because like all three of us have referenced, there are many, many chances where he did not, many games where he did not get a chance. So let's hope, better sense prevails when it comes to somebody called Ravichandran Ashwin.
Yeah. There's another quote from that press conference where he says, as a cricketer, it's very tough, which I've already read out. But I think there's another one which we need to talk about because of his personality. And that is, he says, Chetan, this constant search for excellence has held me in good stead all the time, but it's also been incredibly draining. It's not a journey that's very easy. It's been draining, but I'm very thankful for all the lows that have come my way, because without the lows, there are no highs in your life. And that's a perfect life lesson for anybody, not just anybody who wants to be a cricketer, but anybody in any walk of life, because it tells you need to dust yourself and pick yourself up when you're going through a low phase. But the thing that stands out for me in this quote is, I feel like there is this constant need to innovate, constant need to better yourself because you're not sure you're going to be in the team every time, which you were referring to as well. And so I can imagine for somebody who's such a thinking cricketer, he's cerebral in the way he looks at the game, the way he talks about the game, it mustn't be easy.
Of course not. It cannot be easy at all, because not just for him, for any cricketer, in fact, especially bowlers in this T20 era, because they are continuously playing. Of course, he doesn't play all formats for India now, but he's obviously playing a lot of domestic cricket. He's playing international cricket in the Test arena. He had a comeback to the Indian side. He was part of the ODI, outfit for a while, especially in the 2011 World Cup. Then he came back last year for the T20 World Cup. He has to be playing IPL every year. He has to keep finding those variations, keep working. Sometimes he's playing for a different franchise. Next year he's playing for a different franchise where he's partnering up with Yuzvendra Chahal. So he has to continuously stay relevant. And within that, I think, when you're partnering sometimes with Ravindra Jadeja, sometimes with Yuzvendra Chahal, you're trying to seek that identity. And we have seen time and again, left arm spinners are a premium, wrist spinners are a premium. What has happened to the age-old, proper off spinners? So I think Ravichandran Ashwin is somebody who's kept that art form alive. And I remember this once, we were having this conversation and he was talking about, how he doesn't bowl the dusra so much. He has so many other variations and he doesn't really use the wrong one, the dusra, so much for an off spinner. And off spinners in the 10 years before Ashwin have used the wrong one and the dusra quite a lot. And his reply to that was, because I bowl with a half sleeve t-shirt or a half sleeve jersey, I do not wear a full sleeve jersey. And he was hinting, that off spinners before him, just before him, were not using the right action to perhaps bowl. So that was a stark reminder of how technically correct he is, how technically correct his variations are, and of course he needs to keep on reinventing them, keep on delivering the goods every time he goes out to bowl. And despite the fact that he's delivered so many wickets, look at the simple fact that he's not played last 6 test matches. This simple statistic that since 2018, now it's stuck in my head, Meha, that you mentioned it, since 2018 that he is the most successful bowler in the SENA countries, and yet he's not played last 6 test matches India has played in England. It's just a travesty for India's best spinner in the current era.
Yeah, absolutely. Jadeja comes a close second, 13 matches, 34 wickets. But like I said, Ravichandran Ashwin with better average, better strike rate. Now, let's also, Jamie, talk about Yashasvi Jaiswal. Once India were bundled out, or once India bundled West Indies out for just 150, the focus shifted to Indian batting and more specifically to the debut of a certain 21-year-old Yashasvi Jaiswal. So much has been written and spoken about that, the talent that Yashasvi possesses, and the numbers that he stacked up to back that claim with an average of 80 in first-class cricket. All Indian cricket fans wanted to see him in action, and he didn't disappoint. Jaiswal made a cautious start to his Test career and waited for 16 balls before getting off the mark. But once the initial jitters were gone, he looked comfortable in the leap that he'd taken to cricket in whites. Of course, the conditions and West Indian bowling would have made him feel quite at home. But Jaiswal scored 40 of 73 balls in the company of Captain Rohit Sharma, who supported him at the other end, taking India to 80 in just 23 overs. Jaiswal played some eye-catching shots as well in his innings, including a reverse sweep in the final over of the day. Now on day 2, he will hope to build on that score, and given how at ease he was on day 1, expect him to do well on his debut. Jamie, how impressed were you by Yashasvi Jaiswal? And I know that, yes, the conditions, bowling, very friendly. But having said that, this was a huge moment for him.
Absolutely, because of all the anticipation, right? In the day or so after we heard that Jaiswal was going to make his debut, I was just sitting and I was thinking about how many, not just uncapped Indians, but there have been very few Test players in the last 2 decades whose impending Test debut has been so widely anticipated, written about, and now in the days of a video spoken about on camera. I mean, I think Michael Clarke was one in 2004, having played one days and being called the Steen Wonder. Many people were waiting for him to make his debut. Ajanta Mendes is another, his Test debut because of he'd taken 6 for nothing against India. Then Rohit Sharma himself, having scored a double 100. I think if I'm not wrong, Rohit Sharma's played the most ODIs before he got to his debut. And then in more recent times, someone also from Mumbai, Prithvi Shaw, because he ticked all the boxes. And I don't know whether you or Chetan will agree, but I sort of put Jaiswal in that same category, because when you score big hundreds and then you tick off every single box, under 19, list A, your first class average of 80, it's almost like, yaar, ye ladke isko mauka kab milega, right? Now, to go beyond that, to just look so at ease, right? To take 16, 17 balls, to get off the mark, then to get off the mark with a spanking T20 shot, it just shows how, yes, it's only one innings, he's only 40 not out, but it just shows how the hype is probably justified. He didn't look unhurried. The bowling was decent, was not threatening. I think West Indies were a fast bowler short. I would have gone with Shannon Gabriel. But all said and done, this boy, I mean, what a picture. He actually looks like a teenager. He's not. But he just looks like someone destined to play a long time, much like Shubman Gill. And let's just hope that 40 not out goes to something bigger, because if he fails in the next innings or the next 2 matches, you just know how many people in this negative time, especially social media and the brigades, one of the most favorite terms of Chetan, Viratians and Rohitians, and I totally agree that it's this aspect of social media that's really made cricket sort of go down the drain. So let's hope, just for that sake, that if he does fail, and it's natural to fail, that the knives are not drawn around Jaiswal, because I feel, just like I said about Gill, this is 12-13 years of quality all format cricket, which is staring us in the face. And I mean, an average of 80, 900s, 250s. This is a much anticipated debut, and let's just hope that this boy Jaiswal can go a long way.
What this tells us, Jamie, what you just said, 900 and 250s is how good he is at converting 50s to 100s, right? And so that's why I'm hoping that he gets to his 50. But Chetan, what did you make of Yashasvi Jaiswal? It seemed like he belonged there. Of course, like I told Jamie, conditions were fine, but at no point did he seem like, like he didn't know what to do. He was very comfortable in whites.
Absolutely. I think the most impressive part was not really that he scored those runs, because we expected him to do that, but the kind of temperament that he showed against the new ball. Yes, the opposition wasn't really of the highest quality, no disrespect to the West Indies. I mean, it would have been a totally different debut if it had been Australia or England, or in Australia or in England, or any other team for that matter. So But I think the temperament that he showed against the new ball, he didn't get carried away. I think he didn't open his scoring for 16 or 17 deliveries. And then suddenly he got a short delivery and he square cut it over, the fielder's head. And he was still in control of the shot. And that boundary is just, is etched in my mind as the first international runs that young Yashasvi Jaiswal has scored. And that's what impressed me the most about it, that he knew the conditions were in his favor. He knew the situation was in his favor, but he was in no hurry at all. Taking his time, getting set, making sure that he made this opportunity count, really. And he's got a decent start. Like you, I'm also hoping that he goes on to score a big 100 and he converts his start and everything. But today will be a new day. Yeah. Again, he'll be fighting the conditions for the first hour. So I think his biggest challenge in this series is making these 2 innings count. I don't think India will get to bat more than 2 innings in the series. So just tide over these sessions of, where the conditions might challenge him and score those runs. And I think his temperament yesterday was really, really impressive. And it's been a good start. Let's hope, he gets to those 3 figures so we can celebrate him a little more.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is what Ashwin had to say about Yashasvi Jaiswal and his debut. He says, and that quote's going to come up on your screen. He says, he just reverse swept the first ball of the last over. That's what you can expect from him. He's very vibrant. Hope he goes on to do great things in his career. I think we're going to see some special performances from him. And I thought that really, Jamie, was what stood out for me in the fearlessness he showed, reverse sweeping in the final over. It could go wrong. He could lose his wickets or could have lost his wicket. But, that's the fearlessness of youth. You get that.
Also apt, right? Here's a player who has come into the limelight because of runs across all formats. Again, an average of 80 is fantastic, but like we were just discussing a few minutes ago, what stands out for me more than the average of 80 is the fact that he has those 900s and just 250s. That is more than an exceptional conversion rate. But in those 900s, we've seen, and this is nothing new that I'm about to say, this has been written about and well documented, the hundreds, the big hundreds have come at different situations, at different strike rates. Some have come at strike rates of 80 or late 70s. But there's a very famous incident where he was told, you have to bat that Khadoos Mumbai way. And he did it. And he told the captain and coach, you got what you wanted, right? So against the backdrop of this year's IPL, which definitely, without a doubt, has pushed him here in this Test debut to get a 50 off 13 balls, to get a 98, and then to get 100. So to do all this, but then to be able to take 17, 18 balls to get off the mark, to bat for time, to respect the opposition, to see off the new ball, like Chetan said, but then to also show, hey, you know what? I'm 21. I can play these shots in my sleep, and to bring out the reverse sweep. It's just a perfect mix. Yes, let's temper our expectations. He's only 40 not out. But in that 40 not out, we've seen the fact that he can bat, he can respect the new ball, and when he wants to, he can play these shots. So let's थोड़ा क्या बोलते हैं शुभ शुभ बोलो, let's not jinx यशस्वी जायसवाल.
पूरे देर बोलने के बाद saying शुभ शुभ बोलो, let's not jinx him, huh? Okay, let's recap this. Let's recap day one's play for all of you. Day one of the first test between West Indies and India in Dominica went decidedly the visiting team's way, with West Indies being bowled out for 115 just over 2 sessions before India's new opening act erased more than half the deficit. Having opted to bat, West Indies skipper Craig Brathwaite was one of the guilty parties during a sloppy morning session in which 4 wickets fell, and the hosts' innings spanned a mere 64.3 overs, with not a single batter getting to the 50 mark. Ravichandran Ashwin, as we've been saying, he put behind the disappointment of sitting out so many overseas test matches with his 33rd 5-wicket haul, and backing him was Ravindra Jadeja with 3 for 26. West Indies' debutant batsman Alec Athanaze, he top scored with 47 and was one of just 2 players to face in excess of 50 deliveries on a day which India dominated from the start to finish. On Test debut, Yashasvi Jaiswal led an opening stand of 80 with his skipper Rohit Sharma to go into the second day on 14 not out. Chetan, before you joined, I was teasing Jamie about that 1-all scoreline that he had predicted. Looks very, very unlikely now. How disappointed were you with West Indies in the way they batted? I mean, could have applied better. I mean, there are players like Tej Narendra, and frankly, he got a very good delivery, but Brathwaite, the delivery that he got out to, the shot that he played, some of the others, Blackwood, Jermaine Blackwood, how he got out. I mean, you just felt like they weren't into this game.
I remember you mentioned Jermaine Blackwood, and I remember the 2016 tour that had covered the Test series in West Indies, and he was batting in Jamaica. The first innings he played a bad shot and he got out. In the second innings he scored a half century, then again played a bad shot and got out. And West Indies were trying to save that Test match. And then he suddenly comes in the press conference and he spoke in third person, and that's how Jermaine Blackwood bats. He could have said, I bat that way, but he referred to himself in the third person. So it just shows kind of...
Are you serious?
I am absolutely serious. And we actually waited 45 minutes for him because he was taking an ice bath. And he had to be reminded that we were waiting for him in the press conference. So
was he saying Jermaine Blackwood does this and Jermaine Blackwood does that? Wow.
Kind of. So, it just kind of showed the mindset that these young West Indies players had. And I'm not going to take names, but one of the current West Indies cricketers in the side, and he is also a former captain, he told me that there's not a lot of care for Test cricket in the West Indies, and we already know this. But for an active cricketer to say this off the record, it just came as a bit of a shock, because every time you see the West Indies play, and you think they can't fall any lower, can they? I mean, there's the only way up is there's the only way up. But every time India visits after 2-3 years, and you think this is the worst West Indies side. We all thought that in 2011. Then we all thought that in 2014-15, and then whenever they've been there for ODIs or T20s or Test matches in 2016, we went there for Test series. Again, we thought this is the worst West Indies side. In 2019, again, we thought this is the worst West Indies side. And here we are, watching them get 150 all out, and we're still thinking this is the worst West Indies side. So the downfall is consistent. It's tragic because people there, they absolutely love their cricket. And it's the few fans who go to the Test arenas. I mean, even yesterday we were watching some of the fans there. It's just very, very tragic. And I think, you just sometimes think that maybe if they were not picking a West Indies side, maybe they were picking a Jamaican side or maybe a Dominican side. If that is something that could revive West Indies cricket in the Test arena. So I'm not sure there's a solution for that, because their best players are busy elsewhere playing. Yesterday, we had this news where Sunil Narayan is going to take a flight. He's going to play MLC cricket, then he's going to play Vitality Blast or the 100 or something like that, and then he's going to come back and again play MLC cricket. When was the last time a West Indies cricketer showed this much passion for international cricket or for Test cricket, really? So it's a sad story. It's sad for cricket overall. I mean, India is doing its part, keeping its promise, touring them for bilateral cricket and everything. But it's just a steady decline, and for the first time, they will not be part of the ODI World Cup. That's just really sad. I'm not sure how. Like I said, you always think the only way up. There's only the way up from here. Yeah. But I just don't know how they're going to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt like it was the same thing with their bowling as well. If you thought that batting was disappointing, bowling was bad as well. Okay, but the other debutant for India in this Test match was Ishan Kishan, who took over the wicket-keeping duties once the management decided to shift from KS Bharat, who kept wickets in the past 5 matches since Rishabh Pant's accident. While the 24-year-old has played 14 ODIs and 27 T20Is, he had to bide his time until this series to get a look in at Test level and acquitted himself decently on his first day on the job. Kishan's first dismissal was a diving take of an edge from Raymond Reefer's bat, courtesy some nagging bowling from Shardul Thakur, and later in the day he held a good catch off the bowling of Ravindra Jadeja, albeit on the second attempt. Between these two catches, Kishan did fumble the ball on several occasions, but he did not put down any catches. Early days to call his future, but if Kishan can score quality runs in this series, he will have done plenty to hold down his place in Pant's absence. Two things were clear, Jamie. One was that they moved on from KS Bharat and they're looking for a like-for-like replacement for Rishabh Pant, and so went in with Ishan Kishan. The other is, just like Rishabh Pant when he started in the beginning and wasn't, finished product when it comes to wicket keeping. It's pretty similar with Ishan Kishan as well, because he held on to those catches, but there were moments where you felt like he needed to be better.
Yeah, I think it's a decent start. He took that diving catch going forward, like you mentioned, off the edge from Shardul, and then on the second attempt, he got that nice catch of Ravindra Jadeja. There were fumbles. But just like Chetan was saying on a different show yesterday, Rishabh Pant was more than sloppy. I mean, I think Chetan was saying that the British press were saying, where have you guys got this joker from? So if Rishabh Pant can work hard, there's nothing to say that Ishan Kishan. And I know a lot of the comparisons are being, I'd say, rather unfairly with Rishabh Pant. Let's not expect Ishan Kishan to go on and do Rishabh Pant-like things, both with the gloves and the bat. We hope and wish him all the best, but I don't think that comparison should be made. Again, KS Bharat as a keeper is far superior, but he's not been doing the job as consistently as anyone would have liked. Because I just go back to when he kept for that one session in 2021 against New Zealand when Ridhiman Saha got that neck spasm. In that session, he was outstanding. He got catches, stumpings. He was very animated. He was very enthusiastic. And you wondered, hey, can this guy do it whenever the chance comes? A good start, but like Chetan also highlighted, progressively, especially in that fourth test of the BGT, and then a few weeks ago at the Oval, the standard did dip, right? So it's not surprising. Is Ishan Kishan going to be able to hold down his spot? I don't know. Have they entirely ruled out KS Bharat? I don't think so, because this is a transition phase. And until Rishabh Pant does come back, there's going to be a bit of chopping and changing. I think as far as Ishan Kishan is concerned, let's hope that he's able to contribute more with the bat, because the absence of Rishabh Pant's batting is what's really letting down the Indian middle order. So let's wish him all the best, and let's hope he literally grabs on to whatever comes his way.
Yeah, but I also feel like I don't know whether they're looking at, which I think Chetan you referred to in yesterday's show, where you said you don't know whether they're looking at either one of them as a long-term option. Unless Bharat's batting improves in a big way, or Ishan Kishan becomes a better batter and a bowler, and a wicketkeeper, I don't see them as a permanent wicketkeeper batter option for India. But having said that, right now, what did you make of his debut? As a wicketkeeper, of course, we need to see how he bats. Just the way he was fumbling a bit, maybe jitters, first day. But your thoughts?
I thought he was okay. I thought he was as good as Shikhar Bharat, if not better. I haven't seen anything exceptional from Shikhar Bharat, the little bit of test cricket that he's played. Like I said yesterday also, that he fumbled a lot in the fourth test match at Ahmedabad, which was the one true pitch in Indian conditions. And then, of course, the World Test Championship final was also not really that good for him behind the stumps. So, yes, Ishan Kishan didn't drop any chances and all. Yes, there were a few fumbles, but that's pretty much par for course for any keeper really these days. As long as you don't drop the important chances and all, you can get away with those fumbles. It's not easy concentrating for 90 overs or however long the West Indies batting went on for, behind the stumps. So I think he did a decent job. I think it was a decent start. He was as bad people were making him out to be behind the stumps.
No, I'm not saying that. I think that's just because everybody was just watching him, right? It was like the first time you're seeing him, so No,
there's the social media narrative that Kishan is so bad with wicket keeping and everything.
I stopped taking social media seriously a while ago.
Yeah, I was really baffled with that sort of narrative on social media that he's not that bad a wicketkeeper. Maybe if it's absolutely a rank turner, maybe he might struggle a bit. But again, like Jamie said, and like I said yesterday, there's always a learning curve. And also, I would like to say that international cricket has moved away in a lot of ways from your keeper who can bat a bit. Now we are looking for batsmen who can keep wickets. And Rishabh Pant was strictly in that particular mold. And Ishan Kishan can be in that particular mold. So the likes of KS Bharat are always going to struggle if you're not going to contribute a lot with the bat.
Absolutely.
As if they can hold out their places in the long term, that remains to be seen. But if he scores runs, I'm not sure why not he can't do that.
And I also remember Rishabh Pant going through that learning curve. I mean, when he started, he also had these moments where he was, not what he needed to be behind the wicket, but, improved over a period of time. What should India look to do today, Jamie? I think they'd want to bat once. So just put up the biggest total lever and then get West Indies out.
Yeah, I think everyone watching India's reply so far is like, yaar, hamari batting bhi aa jaye, because Shubman Gill's batting in a new position. Not that decision has not gone down well with everyone watching. Virat Kohli must be like, please, I need to get some runs. Rahane. So everyone due to bat, like the openers right now, has a lot to prove and a lot to also hopefully shut people up with. So let's see how it goes. But look, West Indies are going to have to do something extraordinary to limit India to, I don't know, anything under 500 right now, it seems.
Yeah. Okay, Chetan, you have any different thoughts?
Not sure India will score 500. I mean, I don't have as much confidence as Jamie does in their batting. I think the first hour is going to be very, very tough.
Are you serious?
I think the ball was doing quite a bit, and even Alzari Joseph was having that bit of a spell where the ball was rising a bit sharply. The first 15 minutes, I think Rohit and Yashasvi were not really comfortable. So if they're going to start again, that's the thing. They're going to start again, and that's the chance that West Indies really have, the first hour of play. After that, they don't really have that bowling. So that first hour of play is going to be very important. If India doesn't lose 3 wickets, I think they'll get 500, but I don't know. I would like to see them get 500. It's just my confidence over the last 3 years in this Indian batting lineup has been completely eroded.
Stop being so cynical. Stop it. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Completely out of time. Jamie Alter, Chetan Narula for joining us here on the show. News 9 Live is what you need to subscribe to. We're also hoping that Yashasvi Jaiswal on debut gets 100. That'll be perfect on day 2 of this Dominica test. That's it from us. Like I said, News 9 Live. Press the like button if you like what we do, if you like our programming. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.
With all this gear, you must be wondering if I'm climbing a mountain. Well, let me give you a wider look of this place. This is Asia's largest mountain of shame.
A mountain of waste, almost the height of the Qutub Minar.
You enter capital cities of some of the biggest countries in the world. You don't have 3 garbage mountains waiting to welcome you, depending on whichever side of the city you enter from.
The thing is that a lot of times we talk about landfills only when there's a fire at the landfill. You need to understand that a landfill is at fire almost throughout the year. It's only when the firefighters are not able to douse the fire is when it actually catches the nation's attention, the city's attention, or media attention.
The towering landfills worsen one of Delhi's biggest problems: pollution.
यहाँ पर आप रात को आओ, दिन में आओ, आप 1 घंटे बैठ नहीं सकते बाहर। इतनी धूल, प्रदूषण, महक, आप खाना भी नहीं खा सकते बाहर बैठ के।
Life around the landfill is a curse.
हमारे घर में जो बड़े हैं उन्हें अस्थमा के वो पेशेंट है, आए दिन उनको नेबुलाइजर लगाना पड़ता है।
डॉक्टर ने मुझे ये चीज बोला कि यहाँ का एरिया छोड़ के कहीं और चाहिए।
Delhi's garbage mountains are now a fetid symbol of the national capital's trash problem. The question is, who is to be blamed? Watch Delhi's Garbage Mountains. Streaming on News 9 Plus for the Genflix.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders. but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it. It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.
Nobody can contain it. Not the United States, not China, not anybody else.
Frenemies. Streaming now.
Pakistan thought that the Taliban takeover will make India nervous.
Forgetting that you can rent an Afghan, you can't buy him. If you start using radical Islam, there will be a blowback for Pakistan.
In just 2 months, the TTP has conducted more than 100 attacks on the Pakistan army.
If you have snakes in your backyard, you can't expect them to bite only your neighbors.
"20 years, that's how long it took the Taliban to wrest back Afghanistan from the US and its allies. But the recapture wasn't peaceful. Bombs were going off everywhere. Desperate Afghans flooded the Kabul airport, hoping to escape the barbaric Taliban. It was really a chaotic and a sad moment.
And they were looking at this from the prism of India, that the Taliban being what they are will be anti-India. Naturally,
They thought that with the Taliban takeover and the United States and NATO countries going out of Afghanistan and subsequently the region, Pakistan will be the major player.
and like all other Afghans, they have a very, very poor opinion. In fact, even the word contempt for Pakistanis or for Punjabis.
I always believe that the concept of strategic depth in Afghanistan for Pakistan itself is a flawed idea. Problem is that no government in Kabul which is seen as a proxy of Pakistan can survive because it loses legitimacy from day one.
Now, on one hand, you have the Afghan Taliban with its control across